All right. Good evening, LinkedIn. Dave Wilson, the Ring of Hire Show. Hey, we got a great show tonight. I think this one's going to be one of the better ones here. Trade skills versus college, and I got two of the most best experts in the industries there. How you doing, Bill?
Hey, good to be here, Dave.
How you doing, Mike?
Pretty good.
All right, we're all ready. You know the drill, everybody. We'll be right back after this video. That's got to pump you up.
It does. It's the blood flowing.
That just gets you going. All right, hey guys, I'm going to start right off tonight. First, Bill, if you want to introduce yourself and just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, boy, I'm on the older side here. I don't know if I had a few years on Mike or not, but boy, graduated high school in '81. Took college prep classes. Wasn't sure what I was going to do. Ended up going to tech school, and in '83 I got into the building trades. So I was in the Stationary Engineers Union here in Pittsburgh for 22 years. So I did everything
Nice.
from piping, plumbing, sheet metal, electrical, pneumatics, controls, CCTV, anything in the building. I worked at PPG Place in Pittsburgh. We had 6 buildings, 1.5 million square feet of space that we rented. I worked for Grubb and Ellis. So I had the trades, the hands-on work for 22 years. Then I got into the wonderful world of sales back in 2005. It's hard to believe. So I was in the software business. I sold some hardware, and then currently I'm kind of a retread. The company I started with in sales in '05, I left, got into software, and now 2 years ago I got back with that company that I worked for in 2005.
Oh,
So I'm
geez.
back in the sheet metal business now, and I'm pretty excited. Yeah,
But that's a lot of experience, though. You know that you got on that background. You say,
long time, long
yeah.
time.
And Mike, you want to introduce yourself? I know you're my good friend, best friend from high school, but we'll pass that. But this is your time to shine tonight.
Well, it seems like just yesterday. I think I was a sophomore in high school. My father approached me and said, with his German accent, who Dave knows, my father was born in Nazi Germany, and
Yep.
his middle name's Adolf. But he said, Michael, you're not college material. You should try vocational school, and you should try the HVAC. I hear there's good money in that. Well, so I'm like, all right. So I went to 2 years of vocational, and
Yeah.
Dave and I happened to ride the same bus together to
I was the
vocational
chef, Bill. I
school.
was the cook.
It was a short
Wow.
bus. It was a short bus, but that's
Yeah.
okay.
All right.
And so after I graduated, I ended up joining the military. I joined the Navy, and I know Dave joined the Army, and I did do something kind of related to vocational. Like I still worked on heavy machinery and ship HVAC type equipment. And after that, I got out, and I'm like, damn, I'm 4 years behind all my friends that I went to high school with,
Yeah.
and making 4 years less money. But I quickly surpassed them with the training that the military gave me and how to keep my mouth shut and just kind of
Yeah.
shut up and do your job. And
Good.
after doing it for years and years, I was offered an opportunity. After running crews and doing installations of HVAC equipment, they said, Mike, you'd be good in sales. And I also moved into sales in a 2,000 year class.
Yeah.
And I did sales for probably close to 10 years. And then I'm like, I'm tired of making everybody else money. And I'm like, hey, let me give it a
I know.
shot. And,
I love it. I
I've been
remember
in
that.
business
Yeah.
since 2008, and we're making it. We're doing good. We're almost a
Yeah.
$5 million company, so we're doing okay.
Love it. And like I said, I've seen your journey on there, and I've seen your struggles and journeys and all ups and
Hmm.
downs. I'm going to start right out tonight, Mike. I'm going to have you start out with this one. with the trades, we all talk about it. We were talking about before, you know, college versus trade schools. And Bill was even saying, it does matter. Sometimes I think, if you need college for certain jobs, you do. But what do you think's happening on, like, why are kids, younger generation, not going into trade skills anymore? Like, why aren't they going to trades? You don't think they're offered it, or like they don't hear enough about it?
I think it's
Well,
Well, Bill, let's go with you that question on
yeah.
that part. Michael signed back in.
You know what? I deal with a lot of union companies when I used to sell software and now selling, sheet metal products.
Right,
And I think from my perspective, Dave, I'm starting to see the change. I think before it was always you're growing up, your parents are saying, hey, go to college, get a
right,
degree, make money, right? But I do see, over the last year, a couple years that,
right.
is he back?
Yep. No, go
Okay.
ahead.
So I do see over the last couple of years, I do see a change. I was
Right,
talking to you earlier. I saw a stat the other day that basically 600,000 construction job openings each year. You can't
Jesus.
ignore that. No matter what you do, you cannot ignore that. So I am personally seeing the shift. And I deal a lot with the Sheet Metal Workers Association, this, SMACNA, the MCA, mechanical contractors, NECA, National Electrical.
Right,
So in those union settings, they do have some things in place. And I did mention to you earlier, they have a thing called it's a summer camp that's put on um, by different companies around the country. It's called the
right,
Heavy Metal Summer Experience. And in 2021, there were 28 people in it.
right,
Two locations. Now there's 55 locations and thousands of kids, in college. I'm sorry, in high school. And
right,
for the summer, the companies will give them a box of tools, a bag of tools. They'll give them steel-toed boots.
right,
They'll give them the tools they need for summer camp. And there's an application process they have to go through to be approved to go. But they'll show up at a company down the street that's into HVAC or electrical, and they'll put them through the ranks for summer.
right.
And then once they get into summer camp, if they really like it, they can apply for an apprenticeship, and then get into electrical, mechanical, or sheet metal apprenticeship.
No, and that's what we're having fun. We're having fun with technical skills tonight, everybody. I
well,
love it.
you know what? I'm gonna blame this on a company called X, and which I pay $165 a year. I mean a month for internet, and it's not doing so good.
And it's not doing so good, right? But but Mike, when you look at the trades and you look at the younger generation now, what do you see? What do you see out there? Like, what kind of changes? I mean, you're always trying to hire, and you have a great company, but why do you think the younger generation doesn't know about you, know about trades, HVAC, everything? Why they don't see it?
Well, I think they don't see it because again, like I was talking about before the internet crapped out on me. It's just like when we grew up, you grew up working on things. You grew up working
Right,
on mini bikes, cars, motorcycles. It was a mechanical thing, and
right,
there was few certain select of the younger folk that could do that. And we had mechanical inclination, and other people didn't. Maybe they became an insurance guy or whatever they did, or a doctor or a lawyer, but we don't have that today. Everybody's like on the internet, whether they're playing video games or they're
I didn't even think
video
about
game
that.
or whatever they're doing, but they don't do what we did back in the day. And I think it's really a generational cutoff. And today's parents, sometimes I think they frown upon like service
Right,
people, whether it's an electrician, a plumber, or an HVAC guy. And my top guys, guys have been doing this for almost 20 years. They're making well over 100,000. They're making,
see,
90 to 120,000 a year, and they don't work too hard. They're smart. They got it going on, and that's where it's almost frowned upon, and it's sad that it's frowned upon because it's such a good living. It's an honorable living. You do a good job. You're proud of the job that you did,
right,
and you go home. You might be a little bit tired or whatever, but there's always room for advancement, and that's where before you know it, you could be running the company or you start your own company for God's sake.
right. What do you see on that, Bill? How do you feel about that?
You know
Like,
what?
what's missing? What's missing in today's world with it?
Well, I think, like I said before, I think it was always you're always being pushed because college is the way to go.
Right.
But my parents pretty much I got out of high school and I took the apprenticeship test for sheet metal workers, and there were 900 I think applicants, and I didn't make it. I wasn't sharp enough. And, back then, and then now, I mean, the numbers are starting to come up again. But I just think it was, you're always pushed to go to college. But Mike, like you said, though, it's kind of neat. My dad was in the sheet metal union for 62 years. And, we'd drive by buildings and he'd point, oh, I worked on that building. He worked on Three River Stadium. He worked on the U.S. Steel building in Pittsburgh. So it is neat, Mike, when you go by a place you worked on or something I've worked on, or, you go into Five Guys Burgers, right? Mm-hmm. Look up when you see the red shiny ductwork, that's mine.
That's yours.
So when
I did that.
Exactly. So when you go, when you're out, people are looking at you. What's wrong with you? Because you're, I'm always up there looking at the ceiling and seeing what's there. But anyways, I just think it was always being pushed to college. But like I said, it's starting to change. I mentioned last week was National Careers in Trades Week.
Right.
Now a lot of people didn't know that. It's only the second year. So I think there's a push. But I think it was the persona of, go to school, get an education, which just isn't the case now. And with so many needs, so many people retiring, so many people needed for the trades.
For the trades.
You mentioned too the young kids, they're on their computers. But I tell you what, there's a lot of high tech equipment that are now in the trades. I used to sell total stations and 3D scanners. These kids that go to this heavy metal summer camp. Mike's familiar with the term BIM, B-I-M, Building Information Modeling. We can actually draw a 60-story building in 3D before it's even started to be built.
See, I don't think a lot of kids know that, though. That's what I love about this show like this. Because to me, it sounds exciting. When I told you, every day I see entry-level employees, and I'm always like, is this what you want? Like picking, packing, that's all there is in Phillipsburg and Jersey and Pennsylvania and logistics everywhere. Picking, packing. And I'm like, wow, do you like making the $15 an hour, 16? I said, do you realize what you can make? Mike, Rob says if you want to, and I like how Rob says this, not everyone is made for college. I tried it. I decided to go back for trade school back in 1999. That associate degree opened up a ton of new opportunities for myself. And I'm glad that he did. I mean, that's right there says it. Like you said, it's not college isn't meant for everybody.
Dave, one thing I can add to that is, if these young kids would, in hindsight looking back, Mike, like you said, working on cars. I love working on old cars. In high school, I should have went to part-time school, and part-time we had Beatty Technical Institute, because I would have got out of there and had my own shop, and I'd be owning my own business now. But what I wanted to get to is the BIM modelers, these CAD guys. If a young guy or old guy or gal would just take a year or 2 year course in CAD 3D modeling.
Right.
You see every day ads all across the country. We need BIM modelers. We need guys that can draft and design. I mean, I'm pretty much saying if you take the class, you can get a job making $50 an hour, give or take, and have a great career.
And Mike, I told you about about when my son Cash. I said, when I DJ and we went to Hannaberry, and then with your company and what you pay your employees and what you do to keep your employees. Cash would even say, "Wow, Dad, this is." I said, "See." It's not, this is, look at the money they're making. Like you said, those techs, HVACs. I didn't realize that it goes like this, that HVAC is the second most demanding, one of them that's demanding right now. It goes electricians is the most, HVAC technicians, plumbers, carpenters, and welders, and manufacturing, industrial. So I didn't realize that HVAC was that short-staffed. I mean,
well, you look at HVAC, you have to know how to do electrical wiring. You have to know how to do control wiring.
Okay,
you have to know how to do plumbing. You have to know how to do some carpentry because you're trying to work in places. Yeah. So you do HVAC. You have to learn how to do a lot of different types of trades. So it's pretty tough.
And the other thing, Dave, is when you do have the job, now every company's different, but I've got a lot of friends that'll go out and make a couple grand on a weekend putting in a furnace and an air conditioner.
Side job. Yeah.
So again, you have to work. There's certain stipulations with union, non-union, and what you can do. But I've got a lot of buddies making a lot of money part time on their own.
Mike, how do you, as the business owner, what you're doing, where do you see, like, say 10 years from now, like your struggles now, let's just say, what do you see some things that, and I thought about this, like they were talking about how the government can do things, how, subsidies, all different kinds of things for schooling. How do you think you can reverse this? Because I didn't realize, Bill, you even said there's over 649,000 openings in construction and jobs alone.
Each year.
Each year, I'm sorry. So how can you start, how can anybody, Mike, how can they start changing the perspective
Well,
of that?
like what we do is we bribe local schools, but we donate lots of old parts to them. We try to pick the cream of the crop, and we try to get a couple rock stars out of their class because you might have 20 kids in a class, and maybe 4 of them really care and really want to do good, and out of those 4, maybe 2 of them have the brains or the capacity
Right.
to move forward. So, of course, as a business owner, I want the best of the best, and you kind of train them as you go to do things the correct way or the way we do it in our company, and you just hope we can develop them. And we've done that over the years. We've got some guys that work for us that we've brought them in from scratch,
Right.
and they've done great. They've learned all this stuff. We send them to all the latest schoolings because like technology doesn't stand still. Like these newer furnaces and air conditioners, they have apps that connect to your cell phone. That this is how you set them up now. As before, it used to be wires. Now it's
Bill
like
shaking his head
you're
back
you're,
there.
you're sitting there with the phone and you're setting them up, and it's stuff that I don't even understand half the time. And well, that's a good thing I have guys who do, and I pay them to. But technology is just moving forward at such a crazy pace. It's just amazing, and so that's where nothing stands still, right? So
Right. It's always
everything's moving
moving.
forward.
And Bill, I know
But
you
that's
want to
the
add to
key.
that.
Yeah, but that's a key for these young guys, Mike. These kids are good on these phones, right? They're good.
Yep.
So
They're,
when you show them
they're
technology
great at it.
that you can use a little tablet, a 7-inch tablet or an iPad or a phone.
And we have
Work.
we use the iPads as well,
Right.
or the phones. And some guys like, I don't want that big pad. Let's do it on my phone. But of course, their phone's is almost as
Right.
big as an iPad.
But that gets the kids interested because they're already good at technology, right? So you show how that technology can morph into the construction trades. And
Mike, Bill, I'm sorry, Bill, we were talking before the show with Mike Rowe, how he's on TV all the time, and he's really an advocate for trade schools.
Oh, absolutely.
I didn't realize how much he does and how he was saying when you listen to him. What do you see in years to come? How is, like I said before, like the government, can they help somehow? How do you get the word out? I mean, I know social media and stuff like that, but how can you convince a young person to go into the trades? And besides just saying, hey, you can make 100,000, but you're not going to make that 100,000 right off the bat, but you got a skill set that you're going to learn as you go.
Yeah, I personally think that with AI, there's going to be a lot of jobs that go away. Like
Right.
it's something. Let's say accounting. Well, that might be something where you just throw your info in it. Like we use ChatGPT a lot,
Right.
but it's scary on how good of a job they do. And there's going to be a lot of jobs that go away. But we still don't have the robots that can go out and fix an air conditioner, right? We don't
Right.
have a robot that's going to go install a furnace. And I don't see that coming for, it's got to be 20, 30 years. Eventually, maybe, but that's a field that it's going to be high demand. It's going to be high pay. It's a high paid skill. And it's job security, because if you're good at that and you have ambition and motivation to move forward, it's not an easily replaceable job. And it's a job that's good anywhere in the country. You're like, I don't like living here, PA. It's too cold. I'm going to move to Tennessee or wherever you
Right.
want to move. It's a skill. It's something you can take anywhere.
Anywhere. And Bill, how do you think you can get the kids involved? I know you said during the summer, like that's pretty cool, summer camp. I
yeah,
didn't, that's
yeah,
pretty cool
yeah.
because that
Now,
to me, like in school, you had shop. You don't have those things in school
yeah.
anymore.
Yeah, in 7th grade, I had wood shop and mechanic shop,
Hmm.
absolutely. Which, and actually I had cooking, which my wife, oh
Yeah,
yeah, that never worked out cooking,
no, neither did for me.
It was
but
eating. It was eating, not cooking.
yes,
Yeah,
but again, I deal a lot more, Mike, with the union trades more than non-union, but I do both. But I really feel the unions are doing a really good job at making this push, and I've seen it head the right direction. But it's just being out there. I think there's some legislators that are pushing this as well. A lot of people are putting money into that heavy metal summer camp, to
right.
get the kids out of high school, and minorities as well, women and minorities, kids that need help or come from families that don't have income or can't get them to go to a trade school. You can go to the summer camp, get into an apprenticeship, start making some money. It's typically 4 or 5 years now, but
Right.
coming out of the apprenticeship, and there's good
Yeah, but
AVs.
I don't hear about that much anymore. You don't hear
No,
that word, and that was one of the things I was going to ask you both. You don't hear about the mentorship. You don't hear apprenticeship.
right.
I don't even think what back in the day. Yeah, I remember, but I don't ever anybody saying that anymore.
No,
You know,
if you Google, you'll see any of the unions for every trade apprenticeship programs, and they're starting to fill up again. But like I said, back in the day, there were people sitting. Now they can't find enough workers with all these all the construction projects that are going on.
No, and
right?
they have the same problem as the private sector.
Yeah, yeah,
I mean, it's funny because I have a good friend of mine who's in the union. He's been for years. He's the head of Kane College, like facilities, and he has the same problems I have. We talk about it like
mhm,
every other day. It's just like, yep, there you have it. Common sense, not so common. But I think it's really about the individual. It's the young person. They need to really want to do. They need to understand that this is their career and it's as far as they can take it. If we have a young tech or apprentice, as we call him, if he's motivated, we don't have like, oh, you have to be apprentice for 5 years. It's as fast as you want to move forward. Like,
right.
Right.
if you can do
I think Mike likes to mess with us. I
And
think
like
he like
what he's trying to say is even through the apprenticeship program, if you can test to a certain level, you can
right.
accelerate even faster. So yeah, and I think it's some of the non-union trades. There's great companies as well, and you can progress if you have the knowledge, to
To
move
do that.
forward for
But
sure. Yeah.
but when people say about expense, Bill, like the expense of the school, it's nowhere near. Like you see that there's like 2 year college, or over at the McCain, there's 2 year, for HVAC, for CDL, for everything like that. The cost is not as much as people think, is it?
Right. Not at all. Not at all.
I
Nope.
mean, and a lot of them try to guarantee you a job. Like at McCain, when you go there for any kind of it, they try to give you because they do job fairs afterwards, and they bring employers in because, like with Mike, even like when you can get a young person right out of HVAC or electrical. I mean, I would think as an investor in a new company, you want to snap them up if you can.
Yep. Yeah, and these guys that get into the union apprenticeship programs, right? They're
Now
getting
they're getting
paid.
paid, right? That's
Right.
paid.
So that's if you can get into that, you can pass the test to get in. It's really kind of a no-brainer. They've got the footprint. They've got the tech school. They've got everything down pat. If you follow what they teach, you'll be successful when you come out at the end, whether it's 4 or 5 years.
See, I would always think that it would be great, like referrals, like in that way. Because if you get a guy, like I have a new gentleman that started HVAC and he's working with the company, and I told the young kid, I said, listen, you stick here for a little bit and do your schooling. I know two great companies with two
Right.
owners. And I said, stay in touch. I took his number on my personal cell phone. I didn't care. He's going to be one of our employees. You
Yeah.
know, I think Harry, guys, I'm going to tell him, we, Mike, we think you like messing around with us. You like just to pop in and out. You
Well,
know?
well, when your your broadband's not so broad, I guess it's not so good. So
But
Yeah.
that's a good trade
you,
to get into, right? Broadband, Jesus.
I'm just like maybe that's something to look into. But
Yeah. Mike, I was telling him about when we were saying, the expense is not as much as people think for the trade school. Like example, I have a young kid at my work, and I told him about you. He just came there. We work with kids that go to school, trade school, or school, because usually they get 2 days off a week. They can pick the days off that they need because our GM is saying, no, I want those kids because they're going to work. They're going to work at school and they're going to work. They need money while they go to school. So my point there is, Mike, when you get a, like I told this young kid, I said, listen, you work. I know two great companies with two owners that would love to look. You graduate. What do you tell somebody like with a 2 years that come out of that? Is it hard to get them to come in?
Um, well, there's a lot of companies that work with these schools, and they they really want to get the cream of the crop, like us.
Right.
Um, and like when you look, typically, if somebody's actually working and has a full time job, they're doing the night school job. That's because they want to make a change in their life. Um,
Right. No, I like that. Yeah, it's true.
I mean, unlike some maybe some high school programs where you're just like, okay, I'm just doing this through school. It's just like something to do. These people want to make a difference in their life, and they're the kind of people you want. Motivated individuals.
Yeah.
They're working a regular job and putting themselves through school. Well, that's
Yeah.
the guy that I want
Yeah. And
because
that's what our GM said. He said, I don't care. Give them the days off that they need. If they need a Monday and a Friday off, give it to them.
absolutely. And
No.
we have some guys that they work part time and they're still in school, and we show them and we give them on the job training. A lot of the schooling can be theory, and it's not always so much real world, but it just gives them a good start. And a lot of the training is actually on the job that I'm seeing.
But you're
They don't
doing,
come out of school ready to be like, okay, you're a good service tech or an installer. No, that typically doesn't happen, but it gives you a good idea of what's going on. You can get your certifications, like your EPA certifications and things like that, which are important to have, but they're not the skill that's going to make you more money as a technician.
as a tech. Bill, what do you tell parents? I mean, with all your experience and all the trades, and we've talked about it so many times. I know you're passionate about it too. Is how much do a role of parents have in this?
You know what? I always go back to, again, my kids went to college, but my wife sat down with my three kids and said, okay, what do you guys want to do? And she looked at the incomes, right? And she wrote next to each one, what the incomes are. And it's in black and white.
Right.
You can go to school to do this, you can go to school to do that. And so, thankfully she sat down and they got into good careers. But it's the same thing. What are the kids thinking of? They're young. They don't know what they want. So what careers are you looking at? Let's do some Google searching here and see what
Right.
the payback, the return on the investment of
Yeah, I
4
like that
years
return.
in $150,000 versus something in the tech industry. And you mentioned kids, but also there's quite a few women,
Yeah.
in middle-aged women and men that do very well, that get into the apprenticeship programs or get into the ABC, the plumbing or HVAC or electrical. It's just not kids. They're quality people that are switching careers as well, right, Mike? Have you seen that a little bit?
We have, and some of the people that we've hired, like I have a one tech that my it's one tech Tom. He was what was he doing? I think he was an auto mechanic, and he dabbled in this and that, and he originally went to school for this, but life just kind of pushed him in a different direction. But he went back, and he's motivated. You always hope your technicians are motivated by money, because you're
Yeah.
like, okay, I want to make more, and I'm going to try harder. I need to go up that ladder quicker, and he was, and I'm like, all right, he's doing a good job. As to where you get, like we have one tech, he lives at home with his parents, and life's good, right? I got enough to make my car payment.
Right.
I'm living good, but you know that motivation, it's not the same as somebody who's got a family or somebody who has
Yeah.
bills to pay. So that's something we look for, is like, oh, this guy has responsibilities. He's going to want to work, or she's going to
Right.
want to work, whatever.
For that part, Mike, and I even saw, and Bill, I couldn't believe it when I had the military on. I was doing all their interviews for the Army even, and I could not believe, Mike, that they have trades now in the military for plumbing, HVAC. They have it all. So that tells me, I said, wait a minute here. So the kids take the test, the ASVAB, and they can qualify to be a plumber, and they can qualify to be an electrician. I'm thinking, when
Yeah.
did that transfer over? But I thought about that, and I think it's because when I was in the military, and I'm maybe for yourself too, is you had a lot of civilians that did the tech stuff. There was in the tanks and everything that the Army did. You always had civilians because we couldn't fix that stuff. There was no way. But my point there is, like, I can't believe it that the military is hiring for that. So for somebody to go into reserves and go in for plumbing, or it doesn't matter, welding, you I have this one kid that wants to do underwater welding. I'm excited about him. He's at our place. And even for him, underwater welding, it just sounds so friggin' cool,
Yep.
you know? But the
Well, Dave,
military, I think,
when I
would
was in the Navy, so that's why we did have electricians and HVAC guys and plumbers on
right.
our
See, I
on the
didn't even
ship.
know that.
So obviously, because they weren't having civilians coming out there, uh,
Right.
but yeah, the military's had that kind of stuff for years. And if you are joining the military, I mean, you can ask your recruiter, "Hey, I want to go into this type of field," and they can just dial you in, and they'll
Right.
say, "Okay, you need to do X, Y, and Z." Originally, I was going to join the Navy. I wanted to be like an electrician, and I was failing colorblind, so they said, "No, you can't do that."
Oh, that's
So,
right. Yeah, I remember that.
so HVAC in the engine room is what I did on an aircraft carrier. So there you have it.
There you got on that part. Bill, what I was saying here. Oh, here I lost it. Do you think it's all about the money when it comes to the trades and versus like college? Like, you think it's
You know
like
what?
when you're starting out, you're not going to make that first, like you said, you're not going to make that all that money that people say in the beginning, like that 80, 90, like you said, Mike, you build towards it. But do you think money is all about it, or is it has to be that passion? It has to be that kid that wants to take that mower apart, do
Yeah,
mechanics, work on a car.
yeah. Mike was right when he said. I mean, I grew up with my dad working on cars. And my son will do some technical things, but he's
Right,
not going to put the engine in and put a transmission in and do things I do. He's 25.
right.
Um, but I think. What was your question, Dave? Um,
Jeez, I even forgot. I'm sitting there
lost my
saying,
train of
thinking my
thought.
word. I just
No.
saw weird. You're talking about the money. It comes down to the
Oh, okay.
passion
Yes.
Comes
of
Yes.
down
doing
to
the job.
dollars and cents.
But you
Yeah. I
have to
think.
enjoy it. Like if you just think you're going to be like, oh, I'm going to go over and be a welder. Well, if you've never done it and you think you got to, I think you need to speak with somebody. You need to, oh, hey, is it that interesting? Or how do you know besides just saying, oh, I want to make $100,000 a year being a welder?
What
But
I
if
think
you,
a lot is to do with the title too. Unfortunately, right? These younger kids, are getting out of school and they want that title. What's so fancy about a plumber or electrician? But I have two neighbors, one right across from me. He played hockey in high school. He was going to go to college. He looked into taking an electrical union job or
right.
apprenticeship. And here, one of the local townships needed someone, so he's working for the local township on the maintenance crew, doing very well. He's just out of high school.
And he's
Um,
out of high school.
Another
Jesus.
kid up the street, he's in his third year apprenticeship at the Carpenters Union. So, and they're driving brand new vehicles. You know, they're they're doing good. Versus. So I think the answer to your question, maybe the title is what kind of gets kids twisted up. That
But I
but
like how you said that. And then, Mike, when you said that cracks me up because when you say, oh, to be a plumber, like, is it that bad? Like, where do you
Well,
get like,
I think with
you,
a lot of perception of it, like maybe with the pounds, just like a plumber. Oh,
yeah,
I mean, like, oh, you have a master's in sociology. Well, how's that working out for you, right?
right. I know. No, and that's the truth. That's what I mean. I agree.
And the other thing is, like Mike, you can get into the trades, you can learn a profession, and then you can become an owner down the road, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
gee, there.
the sky's the limit. It
Right.
really is. It depends on your ambition. And I have friends that I've been co-workers from years and years. I had one call me today. He's like a manager at some local company over in Jersey in Edison, and he's like, "Hey, I got a friend out your way. He needs some help. Can you help him?" I'm like, "Yeah, no problem." I go, "What are you doing now?" He goes, "Oh, I'm a service manager at this company. Been here for the last 10 years, and he's doing good. He's not out there physically beating his body up anymore, but there's always something to move on to, right? You're not always going to be the person out there. There's always
Right.
some place to advance, and if you can't advance in the company you're at, you move on. I mean, the opportunity's there. You just need the ambition and the motivation to move forward,
Do
and
you see older
sometimes we
age?
find that hard to find.
Do you find middle-aged people going towards that, Mike, at all? Like, not we've talked about younger
When you say middle
generations,
age, are we
middle-aged,
middle
or
aged?
We're,
is that
we're
like,
old.
yeah, like, can you take a 40-year-old and say, I want to go to trade school now? Okay, you know what I mean? Like, do you see that, or is it still
Well,
just
I
the
see
younger?
it's typically seen a 40-year-old, but I'll see people in their early 30s convert over. I mean, it's it's a tough trade, the HVAC trade. Um, but it wouldn't surprise me to see somebody if they were motivated enough, or especially somebody who had a family or something like that, and like,
Yes,
okay, my current job didn't work for me, and maybe I have some experience in this. I know I can be good at it, and you know,
from that part.
I mean, you're the
Wow,
only person that holds yourself back in life, and that's
and
where.
that's it. All
Yeah.
right, Bill, I'm going to let you have this one with Rob. Are you ready? He spent some time writing
Wow.
this. Back in 1999, IT was 25,000 for an associate degree open. Before ITT closed, a door associate degree was over $50,000. School's very expensive these days. Also, when I went back, I worked during the 8 to 5, attended school during the evening classes for 6 to 10 p.m.
Yep.
Every night you had homework for a few hours. Many weekends spent time catching up with classwork. I'm glad the company that I worked for allowed me to attend study class with my classmates 5 to 6. Did that
Wow.
for 2 years straight and didn't miss a class.
Wow. Good.
Rob, thanks for typing all that up. Wow. Uh,
No, he was dedicated. That's the thing. If there's the want, need, or desire, he was dedicated to he saw the goal there at the end. A lot
right.
of the younger kids don't
I
see
mean,
that.
that's motivation, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Yeah.
motivation is something a lot of people lack these days, and that's just
Yep.
outstanding. I mean, that's unbelievable. That's great.
And
Right.
Mike, I remember you saying, I like how you remember you said about Cash. Now, Cash helps me DJing and he's into the HVAC for some strange reason. That's what he's been talking about. So it's so funny how you said, and I like how you said about not so much even about him, but you said because of customer service. If a person you want to hire just has that skills with people and a go-getter, they're the kind of employees that you want. It doesn't have to be all the time, but to be able to handle customers has got to be at a young age to go out to a customer and somebody's yelling at you
Oh
or
yeah.
somebody's saying something. I can just imagine.
Well, I mean, and that's okay with the computer age or whatever. People, they like send text messages or they email people all the time, and people skills is, man. That's if you can talk to some. We have some. I have one technician I'm thinking of. He's not the best technician in the world. I would say he's mid grade. But people love this guy. Like, they leave
Yeah.
great Google reviews, and it's like, oh, we're gonna go back and fix this stuff. But he's such a great people person
Yeah.
that people love him, and he's a company man too. He's the type of guy I would never fire because he's like a brother, and he's such a great. And being a good people person, learning how to communicate and talk to
Yeah.
people, look them in the eye and say, "Oh, no problem, ma'am," or whatever you're talking about. But sometimes, I have one of my technicians. He's like the in the phone guy. And he's got the little phone down. He's like, oh yes, he's like a sheep. I'm like, no man, look him in the eye and talk to the customer. And and the customers are like, why are you sending this young guy? I'm like, well, actually, he's not that young. He's 28, but because he's not vocal or his communication skills aren't the best. He doesn't get the reviews and the stuff that the other technician gets. But though he's a better technician, skill wise, than the other technician.
Right. And I can imagine that. Like you said, it's the public that you're dealing with, you know. And Bill, on that note, when what do you tell people like younger generation or even like you because you talk to a lot of people. Do you talk about to the trades to them a lot and explain to them what they could be doing?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, when I was selling hardware and software, we would go to different. I'd go to conferences or schools, and we had some really high tech instrumentation that we'd show off, just
Right.
to try to show them, hey, it's not just a plumber, or it's not just an electrician. There's some high tech tooling. I mean, one of these units that I sold was $50,000 for a thing about this big, right? And like Mike, you'd get an owner saying at first, boy, 50,000 bucks, I can buy a whole work van for that money. Well, with this laser layout system, it does the work of two guys, automatically. I won't get into
Right.
cataloging, but anyways, so some of this high tech stuff is pretty neat, but it's expensive. So you're carrying, I'd be carrying 60, $70,000 piece of equipment around doing demonstrations, but anyway, some of that high tech stuff would really, get their head turning and say, "Well, that's pretty cool." That's pretty cool.
I would love it to where I wish it was back in school a lot. I just think that I'm sorry. I just think that when it says what can schools do, you know, I just think it needs to be back in there. You know, a lot of there's no, I guess it's money. It comes down to money. I mean, it comes down to where the schools have done away with these programs. Is it because kids aren't interested, or is it the money, the cost to have it in your school system again?
Well, I know our local high school does have the technical. I don't know if they have the shop anymore in the school, but they have it's Beatty Technical School where you go half day, a few classes at the school, and you go the second half of the day, to
Right.
another building for carpentry or HVAC, electrical. So they do offer that. Matter of fact, my mom's neighbor's son. I told him he needs to look into that. He's a great kid, but he's not going to go to college. But I think he's in ninth grade. He'll be in 10th grade next year, and it would be a great opportunity, for him, for
Even
sure.
that's even when people say that, oh, he's not college material. Oh, jeez. You know, I mean, it's
That's
just like,
me.
oh, he's just a
That's me.
plumber. It is. It's, oh, he's just a plumber.
Well,
That cracks me up.
yeah,
Oh, and it's true though. It's perceptive, I think, a lot of it, because it's like, well, he's not, just because you're not made for college doesn't mean you can't learn a skill.
Dave, we all have different gifts, right? I
Yeah.
mean, there's people that are, have PhDs or master's degrees or good with their hands, go
Yep.
to your trade school like Rob, right? We all have certain gifts. And what an employer needs to do is, grab that person that really wants to move forward, take the gift that they're good with, that they're born with, and just really exploit that. You,
And
you
just
agree
go
with that,
with
Mike?
that.
Like you said with your two guys, right? You're not going to change them, but you take what they offer, what each offers the best, and use it.
I mean, and that being said, too, like there's people that they test horrible, like in school, like myself. I'm
That
going to
was me.
talk
That's
about me
me.
for a minute here.
Me.
But
Me.
like in school, or one of the hardest times I had in my life was in Navy A school. So you go through the school, and I barely scraped by and barely passed because I'm not a book person. Trying to put something together from just
Yeah.
reading it from a book and taking a test, that wasn't me. But when
Right.
I got out in the ship and I actually got my hands on something, I'm like, oh, I get it now. Oh, I start, and the person who got straight A's in school that had no mechanical aptitude, I crushed that guy. I'm like, no, you're holding the wrench all wrong, or whatever. And you can't have people giving up because oh, maybe you didn't take a test too good. If you have mechanical aptitude, you can work on
That's a
things
great
and
point.
Right.
figure things out.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
sometimes your best path is, well, maybe you take some easy classes to get some basic knowledge. Then you just get out there and you get in the field and you get in the apprenticeship right away.
Yep.
Not so much the textbooks and the classrooms, but
The
you're out in
hands
the
on.
field and you're working in the thing and you have an older tech teaching you the tricks of the trade.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's not rocket science, right? You got some refrigeration, you got some controls, high voltage, low voltage. It's not, and all the systems are pretty much doing the same thing. Just some are smaller, some are bigger,
Some
right?
are
When
bigger.
you learn them.
Well, these days with tech and the way things are going, yeah, some of it is a little bit rocket science, but it,
But it's
technology is just like
programmable.
with
Yeah.
the variable speed type stuff and the inverter technology, things are changing at a very fast pace. I mean, I just this week alone, I just had like how many of my guys in these classes, and it it was just like I'm just like baffled. I'm like, oh, good thing my guys know how to do it, because I think my ship has sailed there.
Yeah, right, to learn. And that, I've got one more question for you, and then we're gonna call it. I can't wait to have another show on this, because it's just, we got to get Mike better internet. We'll get him on better internet. You know, if he was messing with us, Bill. I think he was messing with us. That's all. He was just trying to be special, and let me get him in and out. But no, it's been a great conversation. Mike, I had one more question for both of you, and you can both answer this one. Maybe is, with the problems with the trades right now and all these jobs, it's never going to stop right now. It's not going to change over the next year or the year after. With your bracket of your people aging out, that retirement, 40, 50, 60, what can you do now? Or do you have like an idea how, what are companies going to do for these techs that are like the construction to build a home? If you don't have construction, you don't have homes, and that's what I was trying to figure out, is what kind of strategy do they have?
Well, the pay's been going up, that's for sure.
Okay,
Uh,
right, you get them
well,
going.
I mean, like money talks and BS walks, right? So
Yeah,
that's where, like we just hired a guy. We advertised 40 to 45 an hour, a new installer, and we did get a guy and a $5,000 signing bonus. So, um,
that's I've seen that. Yeah, I've seen the signing bonuses.
I mean, and that's where You need to, otherwise the company's not making money, right? And
Right.
if you get a good technician, it's worth every penny. But unfortunately, some guys are afraid to leave the company or that, even though they're even getting underpaid. So,
Right.
but
I can imagine for that what you're doing. I mean, you go from one company to another. There's something wrong when that happens all the time when they're going back from they
well,
work
you look at
for.
that resume, like 6 months, 1 year where you don't want that person. But
Yeah.
I mean, just getting good qualified tech or young people to get interested in any trades, plumbing, electrical, HVAC, building, the masonry. I mean, there's that's an honorable trade. At the end of a hard day's work, when you look back at the job that you did, you look at that and say, "Yeah, I did that, and I'm
Right.
proud of the work I did." And man, nobody can take that away from you. You can say,
Yeah.
"Yeah, I did a good job," and you know when you did a good job, and that's honorable. It's not like, oh, I went to school and I'm, for 5 years and I got a $250,000 debt and I can't find a job and what do you know? My student loans are coming due. As to where you can just go to a trade school for a fraction of the cost. What's going to cost you 20,000, 30,000 at the most, and you do your 1 or 2 years and you're out as an apprentice. And it might take a couple years to get to that 100,000 mark, but I'm seeing we got guys that are 5, 6 years in the trade and they're making over 100,000.
Easy. Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And Bill, if you want to take us out on this, if you want to put your 2 cents in on that, and
No, I would just say I agree with Mike. It's just we need to do the job, and like I said, with the union trades, I do see them making the right moves, heading the right direction to get these kids in college or out of high school, not going to college. And even the company I work for here in Pittsburgh, our main office is in Monongahela, in Charleroi, south of
right.
Pittsburgh, and they do a lot, with the kids with the local colleges to get them in the shops to see how we make ductwork and manufacturing, because we're a manufacturing company, and it's tough to get kids to work
Just
in
to learn that
manufacturing as well.
on
Yeah, but there's a
that
lot
part.
to it. There's the electronics, the techs. There's the
Right.
guys that just work on the equipment maintenance. But it's just spreading the word, and I think, like I said, like Mike, we're all talking about as time goes on. These kids and gals and guys are seeing that the light's not at the end of the tunnel with the 4 year plus degree.
The 4 year plus, yeah, especially if you don't know what you're going to do. And so, guys, I want to thank you so much for coming on. And I definitely want to eventually down the road here do another one. I think this is a great show and a great conversation because if for the people on LinkedIn that I've watched and on other platforms here, think about it, just look at it, talk to people in the trade, stop at a company and, learn about it because I just think if it gets out there, the more it's being shown. Like I'm like, I like how you said, I remember when you were saying that. I fixed that. I did that. When you're
Yes, I
doing all
mean
the picture,
it's
when you're doing
pride.
all, yeah, when you're doing all this other stuff, it's not that you're not using your brain, but there's no value, I think, in some of it. Like to say, wow, I built like construction, I can imagine too. That's like, I built that friggin' house, I
Yeah,
mean,
man.
blood, sweat, and tears, and all through that. But I want to thank you both, and I'm going to play this video, and then we're going to say goodbye afterwards after the video. So, guys, thanks a lot for coming on. I appreciate it so much. All
All
right,
right.
all right. Talk right after this.